Welcome back to Gun Fanatics. Not long ago, we dropped a video covering World War II, and some folks accused us of just trying to stir up fear. Now, sure, we appreciate the YouTube ad money that rolls in when a video gets traction, but fear-mongering isn't what we're about. The reality is, you don't have to dig very deep to find solid evidence suggesting a clash between China and Taiwan is not just possible, but almost unavoidable. A quick online search will show you that plain as day. So how does that tie into today's topic? Well, here's the deal. If Xi Jinping ever gets bored of buzzing Taiwan's airspace with fighter jets just to rattle Tsai Ing-wen, then one of two things has probably happened. Either somebody finally took him out of the picture, which wouldn't be the worst news, or he decided it's time to roll the dice and actually invade. If it's the latter, you can bet your paycheck America is going to get dragged into another messy war. And if that's coming, you should at least know what kind of sidearms the Chinese People's Liberation Army has at its disposal. In this episode, we're diving into the pistols carried by Chinese soldiers. These sidearms reveal a lot about how their military thinks and fights. And I hate to break it to you, but if all the info we've dug up is correct, we could sure use more 5.7 by 28mm pistols here in the States. The PLA has tested a whole lineup of handguns over the past century, chasing after the perfect service pistol. Some of them hit the mark, others fell flat. Today, we're going to look at how Chinese military sidearms have developed, how they've been used in combat, and why they were eventually swapped out. C96 Broom Handle. The C96, better known as the broom handle, became a common sight in China after it was first built in the year 1896 by three German brothers. Its wild, futuristic look, kind of like Han Solo's blaster from Star Wars or Buck Rogers' ray gun, made it unlike anything else of its time. Because of a European arms embargo on rifles, China leaned heavily on the C96 during the warlord era from 1916 through 1928. In the 1920s, trade restrictions pushed China to buy cheaper Spanish-made knockoffs of the German C96. Before long, they were cranking out their own unlicensed versions at factories in Shanghai. By the time of the Chinese Civil War in 1927 and into World War II, these pistols were in full swing. With its long barrel and high-velocity 7.63mm ammunition, the C96 could reach out farther and shoot straighter than most sidearms of its day. When Japan invaded in 1937, rival Chinese factions even paused their fighting to stand together against the common threat, many carrying C96 pistols. Quality was all over the map. Some Chinese-made broom handles were on par with the German originals. Others were slapped together in back alley workshops. But no matter the origin, the pistol remained sought after by nationalists, communists, and warlords alike. Shanksy Type 17. As World War II dragged on, the Chinese found themselves running into supply headaches with the original C96 ammunition. To fix that, they started modifying the design to chamber the heavier-hitting American .45 ACP round, which matched the ammo being used in their locally made Thompson submachine guns. Between 1928 and 1931, about 8,500 of these so-called Shanksy Type 17 pistols rolled off the line. These .45 caliber beasts were bulkier and heavier than the original C96, fitted with a fixed-box magazine right ahead of the trigger guard. The standard C96 could throw rounds at about 440 meters per second, accurate out to 200 meters in the hands of a skilled shooter. But the Type 17's big selling point wasn't just power, it was the push toward easier reloads and standardized ammo supply. It sported a 10-round capacity and a larger frame, though it shared 0 interchangeable parts with the old C-96. After the Civil War, most of these pistols were melted down since the communist forces didn't care for the oddball caliber. A handful survived, some ending up on the collector's market overseas. To this day, there's debate over exactly how many were truly made for Yan Xishan's army and how many later reproductions were aimed at American buyers. Either way, these pistols served an important role, especially since Yan's men were already running 45 ACP Thompson guns, making logistics a whole lot simpler. Makarov. By 1947, China was tightening ties with the Soviet Union after going full-on communist. That's when the People's Liberation Army switched over to the 9mm Makarov pistol, straight from the Russians. Even though the ballistics weren't earth-shattering, its 8-round detachable magazine made it a clear step up from the old C-96. Still, it was eventually phased out, partly because China wanted to cut back on their dependence on Moscow. Stechkin. Alongside the Makarov, the Chinese also fielded another Soviet design, the 9mm Stechkin. American troops of the time actually considered it deadlier than the Makarov. Declassified U.S. reports from the 1950s praised its punch and intimidating profile. The U.S. Army even described it as a true machine pistol, capable of firing in either semi-automatic or full automatic mode, with a 20-round magazine and straight blowback operation. Not exactly the kind of sidearm you'd want to stare down on a battlefield. Type 54. The Type 54 sidearm is a rugged pistol with a profile loosely resembling the classic American 1911. It entered Chinese service in the year 1954, heavily influenced by the U.S. 1911 encounter during the Korean conflict. This pistol is chambered for the 7.62 by 25 Tokarev cartridge and feeds from an 8-round single-stack magazine. It saw action in the Sino-Indian conflict of 1962 and was widely supplied to North Vietnamese forces during the Vietnam War. Troops often nicknamed it the Black Star thanks to the engraved star on its grips. The design itself evolved from the earlier Type 51, which was essentially a Chinese-produced Tokarev TT-33 clone, while the more modern QSZ-92 has largely replaced it within the People's Liberation Army. The Type 54 still sees service with the People's Armed Police and certain PLA units even today. Type 64. China's Type 64 pistol was developed in 1964 with the goal of phasing out both the Soviet Makarov and the older Type 54. It was the nation's first fully indigenous handgun design. Development stalled for years due to the Cultural Revolution, and the pistol did not reach real production until around 1980. It fires the 7.62 by 17 Type 64 round, which is comparable in size and power to the American .32 ACP. Mechanically, it is a straight blowback, single-action design with a safety lever, and it borrows styling cues from the Walther PPK. Although intended for senior PLA officers, its tiny size, poor ergonomics, and accuracy issues limited its effectiveness. Eventually, it too was phased out in favor of the QSZ-92. Though it remains in the inventories of the People's Armed Police and certain local police forces. Type 77. The Type 77, chambered in 7.62 by 17, served for more than 2 decades as the PLA's primary sidearm. Development kicked off in 1976, with the finalized design being approved in 1981. The pistol became widely issued among the PLA, the People's Armed Police, and local law enforcement agencies. Although now gradually supplanted by the QSZ-92, large numbers remain in circulation with reserve and second-line military units as well as provincial police services. In the 1990s, Norinco began marketing export variants abroad. CF-98. The Norinco CF-98, sometimes called the EMI CF-98, is an export-grade 9mm handgun derived from the QSZ-92. Its design uses a rotating barrel locking system and a hammer-fired action with a combined safety and decocker. Internally, a steel chassis is set inside a polymer grip frame. With a market price around $250, it is a budget-friendly choice. The grip is somewhat small, which helps shooters with smaller hands, though the extended magazine baseplate can be awkward during reloads. The frame-mounted safety works as a decocker, similar to the Beretta 92, though it prevents cocked and locked carry. While the single-action pull is decent, the double-action trigger is heavy and gritty. Reliability, however, is strong despite a light external finish. Its unusual rotating barrel sets it apart, even though it does not translate into a major performance edge.